Ah, here we are.
In the break,
Take two.
having told you of the horror of lying on that couch and kissing 15 men, I don't think I'd mind it today at all.
Which brings us to the title of that song, You're Either Too Young or Too Old.
Yes, that's
which
right.
was, you were saying during the break also. May I get that for you, or does that offend you?
Oh, no, I'm not woman's lib.
Well, I am, you know.
You mean you've liberated a lot of women? You see, really, only the man can do that anyway. Liberate women.
Oh, it's a
Well, it's a
manhole
very
that-
intimate subject, which you'll not go on with.
Oh.
But no, a man who really loves you is a kind of a wonderful liberation. You feel like a different person.
And yet you said
I'm not hinting.
No, but we know each other well. You came up to my dressing room last time before the show
Yes,
and
I know.
caught me in my
I didn't dare
underwear.
this time.
Yeah. You did. You're one of the few people to see me in my underwear.
Well, I told you your legs were beautiful.
I know, you know, you said, that gets me to something, but you said one time a thing that I haven't forgotten. You said that if I had it to do over again, which already is a risky thing to say,
Yeah.
you probably wouldn't marry.
As early.
Ah, as early. I've misremembered.
And I
part
would
of
have
it.
always married somebody with money.
You would.
I mean, I would not have married just for money. No, this is serious. But I would not have married someone who could not support me. Because that is the death of any marriage. Men don't like this.
And that's where the
They
trouble
think beforehand that it doesn't matter. And I'm a very, you know, everything that was mine was always anybody else's, which was my greatest mistake in the world because they took most of it. But that's the way I had to do it. You know, I couldn't say, I have this and you have that. And if, however you have to be, you have to be. But no, I would never have married anybody who did not have his own niche in the world. That was the one big mistake I made.
hard on the man,
Except I got a beautiful daughter from one of these awful marriages. So there's good out of everything. I couldn't mind an hour of what that was like for Bede. I really couldn't. And who knows, I might not ever have had Bede.
Sure.
You know, and I think my life right now without children would be a sad and sorry affair.
Well, you called your book A Lonely Life some years
The
ago.
Lonely Life.
The Lonely Life.
Because
I'm
I
sorry.
think the people in the art world, we're peculiar. We have a hard time finding people to travel with. We really do. There is an extra sense there and we're very dedicated people to our work, which is not fun for a partner, really. And there's no other way to do it but just do it. There's never a shortcut in anybody's business. To really learn it, you know. It takes a lot of years to finally say you made it. It takes about usually 15 to 20 years.
Where do you get the nerve as a woman in a business like the movies, with everybody advising you, you're making the mistake of your career, when you went to court with the Warner Brothers, to go ahead with it? What private voices do you have that tell you
Well, I
what?
had voices that told me that I was in a dead-end road otherwise. I was just going to be some little... You know, the story of Alexis Smith, for instance, with this play in New York. She was at Warner's all the time I was there, played perfectly charming, leading roles and all, but nothing was ever found out of her like is on that stage.
I know.
You know, she's just... no, really. This must have been something that Alexis had all the time.
They didn't know what they had in her.
And maybe she didn't fight enough, or maybe she didn't know she had it.
Yeah,
But
the other...
I could never be second best. If I had to be second best in a business, I would go into another business. And I just was determined to at least finally learn my trade. And you can only learn your trade by doing good things, not just junk.
God's Country was the movie that you, I think, was that the title of the movie that you refused to do? The one
Yeah,
that broke
God's
the
Country and the Woman.
camel's back?
Yes. But the one I left on was The Man with the Black Hat with Warren Williams. I'd had it. This was it, you see.
Certainly a wonderful title.
So yes, always marvelous, yes. But anyway, when I came back from England completely defeated, I didn't have really a nickel in this world. and had to go back and play out my contract. Warner's issued an order that not one pressman was to meet me at the 12-mile limit. Now, you can imagine when I got into that harbor what it was like with the press. It was murder.
The case
Because
was in
the case
England. You lost the case there.
The
You
case
came
had
back
been
here.
sensational even over here.
Yeah.
But a little man in Chicago, because at that time we traveled by train, hid out and came into my compartment in Chicago, even though he was told not to. He said, "Don't worry, it can never be any worse. They sold dishes with the man with the black hat to get them to come in." He said, "It can never be worse than that."
Yeah.
You know.
So, although you lost
But
the case,
I just couldn't.
You won,
I couldn't.
Yeah.
I won that case.
even though the court.
Even though monetarily I didn't.
Yeah.
And I must say, Warner did, I had their costs too, you see.
Yeah.
They paid
You had to
those.
pay the court
Yeah.
bills. The other question then is, why didn't anybody else do it? Why don't more actors fight?
Olivia de Havilland finally did it. Olivia de Havilland won the case I fought in England, which really was a suspension clause. You see, you could sign for 5 years and be there 50 years later. If you refused to do it, this put you on suspension, take you off salary. When that picture was finished, they'd add it to the contract. Olivia is the one who got us the 7-year limit. There can never be a longer contract than 7 years anymore.
What about men? What about Bogart and Cagney and...
Well, they fought, you know, Bogart, Jimmy and I think had the same amount of suspensions from Warner's under contract there, about 16 or 18 apiece.
What do you do to get one? Walk on the grass?
You
or
just
what?
refuse to do a part, and then
Yeah.
they suspend you, they don't pay you, and then however long that film takes, they add to your contract. You see, so it really was a wicked, wicked contract. So Olivia won the case I tried to win.
If more actors would refuse to do crappy roles, would there be less junky movies?
I'll tell you what I think. If in that time anyway, more actors had worried more about where their careers went and less about their salaries at that time, because that's not a time to fight for money. Money comes if the career comes. But so many people started going into business. They bought, you know, motels, apartments, and they really stopped being actors. They were businessmen, and they played anything they gave them, and they could have helped if more people had refused. No question.
Did anybody at the time encourage you to do it, or was it unanimous that you were making a
Just-
mistake?
Well, I never talked to many people in Hollywood about it. I never was one to go for advice much. I probably should have gone a little more than I did upon occasion, but no, this was my decision. Because I felt, and I do still feel, if you're beefing about anything publicly, you know, either put up or shut up. Either go ahead and do the rotten movies and be quiet, or change it if you can. And I decided that I was going to try and change it.
Don't you think actors probably
It did
don't...
take courage. You know,
Yeah.
I look back on it now, and I haven't any idea how I had the guts to do that whole thing. I have no idea. But when you're young, and wanting to get somewhere, that's a terrific incentive. You know, I just had to at least be given a chance to see if I was any good.
How
See?
old were you at the time?
Let's see. Oh, around 25. Yeah,
Gee, that's amazing.
around 25.
Tomorrow night, New York Knicks star Willis Reed will be here, golf champion Lee Trevino, Godfrey Cambridge, and Muhammad Ali, who has a fight tonight. I'm talking with Bette Davis about Watching the Rhine. Would it be safe to say that's one of your favorite
No.
films? It wouldn't be safe at all.
No, it wouldn't be safe at all.
You hear that?
No, it's very interesting. Shumlin, of course, who did it here in New York, did it. Lucas did it on the screen also, played it also. And Mr. Wallace asked me if I would play the wife for name value.
Name value to
Yeah,
them.
for name value to them, because
Yeah.
it was not a good risk. But he wanted to make it. And because it was such an incredible document at that time of everything we were going through, and of course Miss Helmer's writing is always super brilliant, I more than willingly played it. I didn't explain the scene very well.
Can now.
didn't really give you much help with that. Her husband was, against the Nazis, and he had to kill a man, and he was going back to Germany to fight for the Nazis. I should have told you that. I'm sorry.
He was an anti-fascist.
It was a much shorter speech than I remember, too. Maybe they cut it for television.
We wouldn't dare.
No, I don't mean on your show, but I mean, maybe they have.
I'd heard that the man that part that Paul Lucas, Man with the Gun, played was based on a real character who was seen around Hollywood. And Rudolph Breda was the name he went by.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But I know it was a worthwhile film to make. It was worthwhile.
Yeah. I just thought of, the last thing I remember worrying about you was when you were felled by a wasp, it said.
In Scotland.
And it didn't give very many of the details in the thing.
Well, I had the misfortune to have the sting go into the bloodstream.
Yeah.
And you see around here some of the most basic veins. So in about 10 minutes, I was hot and cold. I was all sort of alone in this motel. Hot and cold all over. Everything itched, my bottom of my feet. And then in about 10 more minutes, this lip was out to here and up here. So I then began to get a little worried. So they found a darling Scottish nurse who came over, and she said, oh, this is for a doctor. By then the arm, you can't believe, I've been stung by wasps all my life in camps in Maine as a kid, The arm was right up to there, fire red, bright red, and a rock.
What do you mean a rock?
Well, it was just...
Hard?
It was a rock.
Yeah.
This took me about a week.
You could die from that. People every year die
If it ever
from
gets up to the lymph gland, you die. It got up this far with me.
Gee. You should get injections or something for that now,
Oh,
because
if
you don't
you-
get immunity to insect
Yes,
stings.
but you wouldn't have this.
It
Once
can
in
get
a
worse.
million years hit a main blood.
Oh, the fact that it hit the main...
Oh, yes, because a wasp, what it stings, you always put mud on it, In the
You do?
Maine woods camping, just mud is the greatest thing for any sting, bee sting or wasp sting. Take all the fire out immediately.
But the insect stings, you don't develop immunity. It goes the other way, and you can get
Well, I
the
just
next
never
one
had
can
any
be
until
worse.
this darling little creature.
You could go into shock from that.
Oh, listen. If I hadn't gotten a doctor, I don't know what would have happened. The mouth went down in about a day. It was just frightening. I'm a wasp.
Did you see the wasp that did it?
Oh, yes, I killed it.
Yeah.
I finally killed it. But he really went in about 3 times.
Ooh.
He was under a dressing gown sleeve, you see, so he felt trapped. So he liked me even less.
Is it possible that Joan Crawford put it there? I'm sorry. I'm thinking of that movie.
No, that wouldn't be something she'd do. No.
No. I was thinking, of course, of the film.
No.
Say, this is sort of not a wasp.
No. Not a wasp. Gun, maybe.
A what?
A gun, maybe, but not a
Not a
wasp.
wasp. Why haven't you been victimized by your career? I mean, when you think of the people who have been, like Marilyn Monroe and Judy Garland and the people like that, can you figure out what it is in the people?
Well, it takes great discipline, and I think I was very fortunate in my upbringing. I think my New England background for the work I went into was extraordinary stabilizer, and I just couldn't. I just couldn't. And I also was an extremely healthy person. I didn't have to do this. And, enthusiastic, loved my work. I really, in that area, had no problems. No reason to escape with dope or pills or alcohol or anything. And you can't work the way I did for 15 or 20 years and do any of that. It's just impossible.
There are a lot of people who've been killed by Hollywood, though, aren't there? I don't know
Yes,
how many.
and in a way, I understand it. I don't think probably there's any work in the world that involves nerves as much as public performing. I think you'll agree with me on that. I think it isn't physical. It's this terrible nervous strain of wanting to do it right and being scared you won't. Well, what it takes out of you is astronomical. You know that. And when you think you do it years and years and years, and if you're not a very strong person physically, you're going to have to need something to, get you on that set in the morning. Yeah. And you're going to, then you don't sleep, and you don't, I just was lucky. I didn't have that problem. So I can't feel superior in any way to the tragedies. I mean, for a talent like Miss Garland, it's just tragic. They don't come along like that very often. And it's just sad that she didn't treasure it more and take care of it more, you know.
Do you ever feel
But it's big discipline. Oh, it really is. You've got to be an enormously disciplined person.
There's certain people who have that kind of, you call it a sort of Yankee, I don't
Well,
know what
I do
fiber
think
or
that's a
something,
perfectly marvelous, it's a tough upbringing. This is not a red carpet world in New England, you know.
Would you say Katharine Hepburn has it?
Katharine Hepburn is the same background, the same type person. Yeah. Same type person, enormous discipline.
Is there any reason why big stars, women, are not necessarily very good friends? I mean, you never hear of you and Ava Gardner or Katharine Hepburn or Marlene Dietrich going fishing together. I mean...
Well, it really depends on who you work with. And you see, we don't work together very often. Mm-hmm. For instance, the group of people I knew the most were the people that I worked with at Warner's all those 18 years. And if I had been at Metro, I probably would have known many of those people much more, because they all knew each other. I don't think it's by any intent or jealousy or not wanting to know each other. I think all of those people you're talking about were very occupied all those many, many years. And it does not leave much time, really, to have a lot of friends.
And then wouldn't it be awfully hard to, really, frankly, to just like somebody who really is in competition with you for the country's affection? Or is
No, I haven't got that. I think it's up to you. I think that if you can't be as good or better, it's not the other person's fault. No, I've never felt that kind of jealousy at all. No. Now, if I went to work today with Raquel Welch, no doubt I would look at her every morning and want to kill her.
You wouldn't, would you?
No, I wouldn't, but I would be very envious of, say, the way she looked. Mm-hmm. But that's the wrong way to approach it anyway. Yeah. It's the wrong way to approach it.
If you'd been trapped in Myra Breckinridge, how long do you think you would have lasted?
Well, they wouldn't have gotten me there in the first place. I mean, I wouldn't have signed to do Myra Breckinridge. I think it's disgrace.
Do you? Yeah.
Oh, I think, how do you put that book? Number one, how do you read the book? I don't know, because I made a few chapters and thought, oh, come on. Why do you in the first place start to film that? You can't film that book. You see, anything today they get that's a little bit kooky, which certainly that book was, they try to film it.
I was thinking not only from, not just the material, but the fact that the movie was made in that strange way where people were making up their own dialogue and they were changing characters.
Oh, well, this I'm not clever enough to do. You see, I do think we need writers. Yeah. I mean, I bow down. Everything I have is due to some man writing something wonderful that I was given the privilege to play. Believe you me, in the beginning, you must have that marvelous script and that marvelous writer. Oh, I could never ad-lib. I don't believe in it.
I can always tell when they're doing it, and the supposedly
of course you can tell when
you can always tell it.
Well, this is the new thing, though, the ad-lib scene. That's making it natural, you see. Now you're not acting if you're ad-libbing. You see, you're just being you, And this, of course, is against everything I believe in. Everything.
Can you tell
I'm just old-fashioned.